They speak of willpower, like it is some lightning bolt, a burst of energy that arrives and fades. But I do not believe in lightning. I believe in formation. I believe in the pattern of a river that cuts through mountains not by strength, but by consistency. Discipline is not a moment of effort. It is the shaping of the ground you walk on, before the battle even begins. Most men wait for motivation. I do not. I form the terrain under my feet. I prepare the field before I fight. That is why I win before I even draw my sword. Your enemy is not the world. It is not your weakness. It is not even your doubt. Your enemy is your delay, your addiction to the perfect moment. You wait to become someone else before you act. But I act now for the person I will become. That is discipline, not punishment, not rigidity. It is loyalty. Loyalty to the unseen version of yourself. The one who will thank you for the pain you endured, the silence you kept, the temptations you ignored. You are not weak. You are simply not aligned with your future yet. And until your formation matches your ambition, your strength will scatter like leaves in the wind. I sharpen my discipline like a blade, not with noise, but with repetition. Every morning I rise, I rehearse who I am becoming. I move before thought. I act without waiting for desire. I do not ask if I feel like it. I ask, does this serve the formation of my future? If it does, I obey. If it doesn't, I cut it. That is war. And life is war disguised as routine. You want results without repetition, power without patience. You chase force. I build formation. You burn fast. I burn forever. Understand this. The battlefield does not reward excitement. It rewards preparation. Your future self is watching, not judging, not punishing, just waiting. Waiting for you to commit, not in bursts, but in quiet loyalty. That is discipline. That is command. That is the path. I do not envy the man who is driven by passion. I observe him. He burns brightly, yes, but he also burns out. I place no trust in fire without structure. A blaze consumes itself, but a disciplined flame, one that is fed, protected, and placed with intention, can boil oceans and forge steel. That is the fire I build inside me. Not passion, but purpose. Not heat, but formation. Passion shouts. Discipline endures. Each morning is a campaign. Each decision is a formation of troops. Where you place your energy, your attention, your breath, this is your battlefield. If you scatter it across pleasures, distractions, and comforts, then when war comes, when real challenges arrive, your army will be divided, untrained, unready. You will fall, not because you lacked strength, but because your strength had no shape, no loyalty, no strategy. So I form myself. I rise before the sun not to impress others, but to prepare the terrain of my mind. I do the hard thing first, not to prove I can, but to remind my future self that I have not abandoned him, that I remain loyal, that I did not trade his strength for my comfort. My formation begins in silence, in simplicity, in restraint. Every time I want to reach for ease, I reach for edge instead. That is how the blade stays sharp. Most people mistake freedom for choice, but real freedom is found in consistency, in the knowledge that your actions will take you exactly where your intentions point, that your habits align with your values, that your formation reflects your vision. That is not restriction. That is liberation. I do not fear effort. I fear disorder. I fear distraction. I fear becoming someone my future self cannot rely on. So I train now in small repetitions to ensure he will not have to carry what I avoided. Discipline is not about being strong now. It is about preparing your strength for when it is truly needed. And when that time comes, when others panic, break, or scatter, I will not flinch. Because I have already bled for that moment in the quiet. That is how victory is earned. Not in the roar, but in the repetition. You want to change your life, but you keep choosing the same day. Over and over, you walk the same path and expect a new destination. That is not failure. That is forgetfulness. You've forgotten that every action is a vote. Every hour is a recruit. Every choice is a soldier placed on the board of your life. And soon, your formation reveals your fate. You may say, it's just one skipped workout, or it's just one indulgence, or I'll start tomorrow. But the battlefield does not recognize excuses. It only measures formations. Are you built for endurance? Or have you sold your position for pleasure? The enemy you will face is not the hardest challenge. It is not the moment you fall. It is the 1,000 tiny moments where you could have sharpened, but didn't. Discipline is built in those moments, when no one is watching, when the world tempts you with rest, with ease, with the illusion that skipping now doesn't matter. But it does. The man who skips one drill in peace will hesitate in war. The man who waits to feel motivated is already behind. I do not need motivation. I need mission. And my mission is shaped by loyalty to the man I have not yet met, to the version of me who will walk through fire and who must find strength waiting. So I do not betray him. I wake early, I move cleanly, I eat with intention, I speak with precision, not because I enjoy it, but because my future demands it. If I am to be ready, I must become ready. And that becoming does not happen in noise. It happens in formation. The soldiers in my mind do not ask for comfort. They ask for command. They want a leader. And every time I delay, I show them weakness. Every time I show up, even tired, even slow, I show them strength. I lead them. You think discipline is about control. It is not. It is about alignment. Alignment with the future, with clarity, with values you do not abandon just because the day is hard or the world is loud. When I form my discipline, I do not ask, what do I want now? I ask, who must I be so that my future is unshakable? That is how you build a life that doesn't collapse when tested. That is how you create freedom, not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of unbreakable formation. There is a hidden pattern in every life, and it is revealed not in crisis, but in routine. The man who folds under pressure was already folding in silence. His formation was soft long before the battle came. But the man who remains unmoved, he is not lucky. He is loyal. Loyal to the invisible repetitions that no one applauded. Loyal to the meals he skipped, the comforts he denied, the temptations he walked past. Not because he hated pleasure, but because he honored his future more. I do not fear effort. I do not resist hardship. I welcome it, because it sharpens the blade that must one day cut through chaos. My enemy is not suffering. It is softness, the slow erosion of purpose under the tide of ease. And so, I hold the line. Not loudly, but daily. I do not make grand declarations. I make tiny commitments, over and over, until they become law. You believe change must be dramatic, that to become someone new, you must transform overnight. But war does not work that way. Neither does character. Formation is slow, subtle, a single choice, repeated without celebration, until it becomes who you are. Discipline is not a performance. It is a quiet war. against the part of you that always wants to stop, to rest, to wait. I do not wait. I move, even when I'm tired, even when I doubt, especially then. Because the one who moves without needing momentum becomes unstoppable. When you commit to discipline, you are not sacrificing joy, you are refining it. You are saying, I will not be ruled by every urge, I will not bow to every impulse. You are stepping into command of your time, of your energy, of your mind. And with that command comes clarity, the rare kind of clarity that makes you dangerous. Not to others, but to the version of you that was always just surviving. I see the battlefield differently than most. They look for victory in the clash. I look for it in the preparation, in the sleep you protected, the anger you restrained, the practice you kept, the pain you endured without complaint. That is where the war is won. Not when others cheer, but when no one notices, and you do it anyway. Because you are loyal, because you are formed. There is a strange kind of silence that follows true discipline. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of certainty. I do not wake up wondering what to do. I already know. My day is shaped by the choices I made yesterday, and tomorrow will be shaped by what I do today. This is how a general thinks. Not in moments, but in patterns. Not in emotion, but in formation. Every action reinforces the next. That is why I don't need to be strong. I just need to be aligned. You wait for the right mood. I create the right rhythm. You wait for life to calm down. I bring order into chaos. This is not control, it is structure. And structure is what keeps the warrior grounded when the storm comes. Without it, you are a leaf in the wind. With it, you are a fortress. Not because you are unbreakable, but because you are built with intention. When others drift from goal to goal, wondering why nothing lasts, I remain. Because I do not chase outcomes. I refine systems. I do not worship motivation. I cultivate motion. My rituals are my reinforcements. My schedule is my shield. And every time I act in accordance with who I want to become, I move closer. Not in theory, but in form. This is what most people never see, that the true cost of indiscipline is not failure. It's fragmentation. You do a little here, a little there, chase one vision today and another tomorrow, and your energy is never concentrated. But discipline is concentration. It is the narrowing of self into force, like the tip of a spear. Every part of me points in the same direction. That is why I pierce through resistance. That is why I do not flinch. You ask how to stay disciplined. I ask, who are you loyal to? If you are loyal to comfort, you will fold. If you are loyal to impulse, you will scatter. But if you are loyal to the version of you who is not yet here, the one who can endure more, command more, give more, then every moment becomes a mission. Every breath becomes a chance to strengthen the line. Discipline is not suffering. It is strategy. It is the highest form of care, the kind that protects your future by mastering your present. I do not need to love the process. I need to honor the vision. And so I act, not because I am ready, but because I am loyal. The world will tempt you with shortcuts, with promises of faster success, easier paths, and effortless rewards. But I do not build my strategy on fantasy. I have seen too many warriors fall to the illusion of speed. The arrow that flies without direction is useless, no matter how fast it travels. What matters is aim, formation, repetition. I choose the slower path, not because I doubt myself, but because I understand the terrain. The mountain is climbed one step at a time, and those who leap often break before they rise. I am not in a race. I am in a formation. Each step is placed with thought. Each hour is laid with purpose. You call it boring. I call it war readiness. Because when the storm hits, and it will, your scattered efforts will not protect you, but my steady structure will. Discipline is not a burst of effort. It is a way of building, layer upon layer, habit upon habit, until it becomes a fortress no emotion can breach. Even the strongest warrior becomes weak without formation. Even the smartest mind becomes chaotic without structure. Discipline is what makes power sustainable. You don't need more strength. You need fewer leaks, fewer exceptions, fewer betrayals of the man you say you want to become. And that begins with the smallest thing, what you do when no one is watching. That's where I place my focus, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. When I fall, I do not ask why. I ask where the breach was in my formation, where I relaxed, where I assumed, where I trusted the moment instead of my system, and then I repair it, quietly, without drama, because victory is not in never falling. It's in forming so tightly that the fall becomes rare, brief, and recoverable. You want freedom? Then build it. You want power? Then rehearse it. You want peace? Then earn it, not in noise, but in discipline. And when you feel alone, when you feel like it isn't working, remember this: discipline is invisible until the day it saves you. There will be days when everything in you wants to stop. When your limbs are heavy, your mind is fogged, your spirit whispers, "Just for today, let it slide." That is the moment you must remember who you are building. Not what you want, but who you're becoming. The man who keeps his word when no one is looking. The one who shows up without applause. The one whose future self walks taller because his past self never abandoned him. That man is not created in the spotlight. He is forged in stillness, in cold mornings, in delayed pleasures, in one more repetition when the body says no. I have walked that path. I have buried comfort so that I could carry conviction, not to impress anyone, but to stand alone when others fall. You cannot skip the work and keep the result. Life does not allow it. What you do not build in practice, you will not possess in crisis. And so I treat every ordinary day as sacred, every routine as a ritual, every repetition as a message. I am not here to survive. I am here to command. Discipline is the greatest show of self-respect, not in what you say, but in how you show up. You don't need to prove your worth to others, but you must prove your loyalty to yourself. Every broken promise weakens the line. Every kept promise strengthens it. That is the quiet war most men lose, not in battle, but in private. The true enemy is not failure. It is inconsistency. It is the gap between your values and your actions. The more that gap grows, the more your confidence dies. But when your actions begin to echo your values, when you rise early because you said you would, when you train because your future demands it, you become aligned. And that alignment is unshakable. You do not need to feel powerful to be powerful. You just need to be consistent. You want momentum? Then repeat. You want clarity? Then simplify. You want peace? Then become predictable to yourself. Let your word be law. Let your actions mirror your values. That is how formation becomes identity. That is how loyalty to your future becomes freedom in your present. I do not rise early because it is heroic. I rise because it is required. I do not fast to impress. I fast to remember hunger and the power of restraint. I do not keep order for the sake of pride. I keep order so that when chaos visits, it finds no entry. This is not discipline as the world sees it, rigid, joyless, punishing. This is discipline as devotion, quiet reverence for the life I am shaping, silent loyalty to the man I will one day stand beside and call myself. Most people abandon themselves in exchange for approval. They betray their structure to satisfy others, but I have no master but my mission. I do not bend to comfort. I do not drift with culture. My standards are not set by noise, but by necessity. If I am to lead, I must first be led by principle. That is what formation means, not routine for routine's sake, but routine as protection, ritual as clarity, practice as proof. Even my rest is intentional. Even my silence is structured. Because I do not believe in chaos, I believe in command. And when my mind drifts, I bring it back. When my body complains, I command it forward, not cruelly, but firmly, with purpose. I do not fight my weakness with shame. I fight it with structure. Because discipline is not about denying the self, it is about directing it. I know what happens when I do not show up. I have seen what happens when I let the enemy in, not an outside force, but the internal one. Laziness, distraction, delay. That is why I do not negotiate with temptation. I do not entertain comfort dressed as rest. If it does not serve the formation, it is cut. This is not harshness. This is clarity. Your future is watching, not waiting. Watching. Every choice you make is either a brick or a breach. Build your fortress or leave it open. Act in alignment or be acted upon. There is no neutral ground. Either your formation is holding or it is not. And when the world grows loud, when others scream about shortcuts, hacks, ease, I return to silence, to the repetition, to the invisible victory. That is where the future is forged. The difference between the undisciplined and the disciplined is not talent. It is not luck. It is not intelligence. It is allegiance. One is loyal to the moment. The other is loyal to the mission. And over time, this single distinction becomes everything. Because the man who's loyal to the moment lives in reaction. He moves according to mood, fear, and convenience. But the man who's loyal to the mission moves with direction, even in darkness, especially in darkness. I have chosen to be loyal to the man I do not yet know, the one who has faced greater storms, who carries heavier burdens, who speaks less and does more. I do not know him yet, but I honor him now. Because when I meet him, I want him to say only one thing. Thank you for not breaking when it would have been easier to bend. You want clarity? Earn it. You want respect? Keep your word. You want strength? Build it in silence. Discipline is not something you turn on when you need it. It is something you become through every unnoticed choice. You cannot borrow it. You cannot fake it. You build it or you don't. And the results are obvious. One life collapses under pressure, the other holds. The difference is formation. You do not need to prove yourself to the world, but you must prove your reliability to yourself. If you can trust your own word, your rituals, your repetitions, your preparation, then no storm can steal your center. That is the power of formation. That is why I do not rush. I do not skip steps. I do not seek praise. I seek alignment. My reward is internal, quiet, permanent. When others chase image, I build infrastructure. When others chase validation, I chase precision. This is not arrogance. It is reverence for what is possible, for who I could be, if I do not betray him now? You are not here to impress. You are here to construct. A mind that does not waver. A body that does not collapse. A will that does not retreat. Loyalty is a choice, and every moment you choose it, especially when it hurts, you reinforce the future you were meant to carry. That is how discipline becomes destiny. I have walked long enough through the fog of comfort to know its trap. It whispers promises of peace, but delivers only softness. It tells you that discipline is too harsh, too rigid, too cold. But I have learned, the warmest comfort is the one built from structure. Not chaos, not indulgence. True comfort is knowing that no matter how uncertain the world becomes, you remain constant, formed, ready. That is what discipline gives, not just strength, but self-trust. You do not need to fight the world to win. You need only to stop abandoning yourself. Stop compromising when no one is watching. Stop excusing when it's inconvenient. You will not feel heroic in the moment, and you should not. Discipline is not glamorous. It is quiet, unseen. It works while the world sleeps. It sharpens when no one cheers. It builds layer after layer until one day you walk differently, speak differently, endure differently. Not because you tried to impress, but because you stayed loyal. That is what I teach. That is what I live. Not the appearance of strength, but the root of it. Not loud declarations, but silent oaths. And above all, consistency. Because the most dangerous man is not the loudest. It is the one who does what he said he would do. Repeatedly. Without drama. Without detour. When they ask where your strength comes from, you won't need to explain. Your life will speak for you. The precision of your habits, the steadiness of your posture, the weight of your word. That is what formation produces, a presence that cannot be shaken. And they will think it is natural. But you will know it was earned. In every early morning, in every resisted impulse, in every moment you remained loyal to the man you had not yet met. That man is here now, because you did not quit, because you trained in silence, because you formed when it was easier to fold. And now you do not need to chase strength. You are it.